Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
It is no secret that I am an Orthodox Christian, and I have covered many film festivals from Newport Beach to San Antonio and all places in between, at least in the United States. But today I am most excited to speak about Byzanfest, which is an Orthodox-based film festival in Melbourne, Australia. And I have with me the founder today, Chris Vlahonasios, and I'm going to butcher it, and you're going to repronounce it for me one more time. Chris, thank you for being here with me.
That's okay. Thanks, Robert. It's Vlahonasios, but that's okay.
Vlahonasios. Thank you so much. Chris, what was the catalyst to want to do an Orthodox Christian film festival? As you know, there are many faith-based films, but primarily evangelical faith-based films that don't have deep-rooted meaning in theology, but are very much more seeker-friendly. What made you want to create an Orthodox one with the rich history of the church that most people don't know about, at least in the Western world?
Well, it actually started in 2013, and before that, in the lead up to that, I actually have, it still exists, an organization called Transfigure Media, which started in 2008, and that was my attempt to bring Orthodox filmmakers and artists together to network from all over the Orthodox world. And I had the idea of creating Byzanfest because I realized at the time in 2013 it was very popular to have an online film festival. And I thought, okay, why can't we as Orthodox do the same thing? Because if I was to do a traditional film festival, it'll be just stuck here in Melbourne, but I wanted it to be international. So everyone got a bit of a taste of Orthodox cinema. And it was actually after I came back from Greece for my first time, I went for a big trip. And I came back and discovered that my mum had advanced breast cancer. The good thing is she's in remission. And going through her treatment, the chemo and the radiology and all the other things in between, I began to realize it was important to do something creative. I especially learned this at the Olivia Newton-John clinic, where she was getting her treatment done, where they put a big focus on healing and art. And I realized too that Orthodox filmmaking is the same thing. It's about healing ourselves and also showing beauty and truth. And that's what basically pushed me to create the festival in 2014. And I had a little bit of a break because I got married. So for 2 years, there's a little gap, but it's been going strong ever since. And I guess my love for cinema came from a very young age, but I really wanted to promote and encourage Orthodox filmmaking because, from my opinion, it's perhaps one of the most beautiful forms of cinema there is, especially when you have giants like Andrei Tarkovsky and who's, I would say, the godfather of Orthodox cinema, and also a whole lot of films in between. But I guess we can talk about that later.
Well, is your mom okay at this point? Yes,
or... yeah, no, no, she is. She's yes, no, thank God, she's in remission. It was scary, and she had other health complications as well, but thank God she's still with us. And even though it was a very dark time for me, at the same time, I did see a lot of beauty, a lot of light, and I think it also helped push me to make Byzanfest a reality.
When Byzanfest came about, and now you were able to gather in person this year in Melbourne specifically, you've had a couple of priests and clergy come, obviously, to bless the festival. What has been the reaction in Victoria, Australia, to the festival thus far?
It's been very strong and very enthusiastic, and not just within Victoria, which is where Melbourne is based, but all across Australia. You'll be contacted by people from Perth and Brisbane. A lot of excitement, and this would actually be our first time of. We've done physical screens before in the past. However, doing them on such a big scale, such a grand scale in cinemas is a first. So, especially after 2 years of COVID, the festival was just ready. It just had to be on the big screen. So I'm seeing a very positive future, and the quality of the films just get better and better, and we've had some fantastic examples.
Take us through, the festival is currently running from October 27th to November 6th. So we are in the midst of the festival. So I greatly appreciate you taking the time during the most stressful portion of it on Halloween here in the United States and November 1st over in Australia because of our time difference. What is the opening night film?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was asking what the opening night film was.
Oh, sorry. It was called Across in the Desert, an absolutely beautiful film about the life of Saint Brasco the New. It's by a Serbian filmmaker, and I have to say the Serbs are really creating some of the best Orthodox cinema we've seen in years, such as Man of God and now Across in the Desert, and that's currently being screened in Europe, and hopefully will be screened in North America. And here in Australia, we hope to have a few more screenings, so we'll see about that. But it's an absolutely epic film, beautiful cinematography. It was filmed in the Jordanian desert, and it just is about the life of the saint and her interactions with the local Bedouin tribes, and also the various temptations and sins she encounters in the desert and how she overcomes them.
You know, now for those that aren't too familiar with those of us being part of Eastern Christendom, you know, and the Orthodox Church, sorry, my Roman Catholic friends, when the church split in 1054, you guys went way far left, and we kind of, well, we pretty much stayed on the same trail as we always have from the apostolic age. What would you like to tell those who aren't Orthodox that would like to come to the festival and catch, you know, some of the films still being presented? Especially when it's a pan-Orthodox festival, so Serbs, Arabs, Russians, Greeks, etc., that are taking part in this.
What I would say is that everyone's welcome to come, and especially here in Australia, our Orthodox Church is welcomed home many people who converted to Orthodoxy, and even at the screenings, especially at Crossing the Desert near on the Gala night. My wife was chatting with this lady who turned out that she wasn't even Christian at all, but she had seen the film floating around on social media, and she was just very curious to learn about this saint. And I would simply welcome everyone who would like to come and see, because this is cinema. This isn't just, yes, we use the term, it's Orthodox cinema, but at the end of the day, it really is cinema. And these are just the influences, and this is what inspires us, the same way that every filmmaker has a different inspiration and different experiences. This is what is, I guess, unique to us. So you're welcome to come. And if I'm there too, I'm more happy to have a chat as well. Because I love talking about cinema in general, not just Orthodox cinema.
Chris, are you also a filmmaker, or are you just a fan of the art itself?
I did make a couple of short films when I was younger. Absolutely nothing special. Just learned the basics of filmmaking, and it's very, very hard. And I don't think I have the strength of a filmmaker. So it's much easier to be a professional director and a critic than an actual creator. But I really tip my hat to the filmmakers who do pull through and actually make this art, because they're helping so many people, but they're also just creating something very beautiful for all of us to share. And I have to say that even Andrei Tarkovsky's masterpieces, such as Andrei Rublev, that film, even though it is a very spiritual film, it's regarded as the top 40 films you have to watch before you die if you consider yourself an actual filmmaker. So the fact that you have a spiritual film in the top 40 of all the films ever created, I think speaks volumes of how much of an art this really is. It's not just a Christian film, it's actually art.
Yeah. With so many films being so dark as of late and nihilism, we definitely need a hopeful turn. I know you mentioned Man of God earlier, you know, the film about Saint Nectarios. Yeah, how important was that to not only Orthodoxy, but an international audience, especially with Mickey Rourke being a part of the film?
I think that film has done wonders, not just for Orthodoxy, but just in general for great stories. Even here in Australia, there were people who weren't even Orthodox who organised private screenings, because that's how it was being released here in Australia. It had to be through private screens. It wasn't through the general cinema chains. And I even came across in my local area, a Baptist church was doing this screening, a private screening. And I actually contacted them and I asked, basically, why are you doing a screening? In a nice way, of course. It didn't come out like that. But I was just curious to know. And they said that when they saw the trailer, they were so inspired by his story and by his life. And they hadn't come across anything like that before. And that really strikes a chord, not just to myself as somebody who appreciates film, but even to all Orthodox, that we have the life of Saint Nectarios is just one, little tiny piece of treasure in the Orthodox treasure trove. And there's been a film made about his life. So if you have people who aren't even Orthodox or not even Christian too coming to watch the film, then that just shows that our stories are worth telling, and our influences and our history and our culture and our personal ways that we express it are worth showing to the world. I think it actually connects with a lot of humanity. There's many films I'm seeing now where I have no interest in watching that film because it doesn't connect to me, whether on a political or social spectrum, if you know what I mean. But even as a human, I just don't connect to that film at all. And even though you might have a film like The Man of God, or Across in the Desert, you have people who aren't even Christian wanting to see. So I think that's the influence and the impact these films can make on the world in general.
Well, to even touch upon further than that, talking about cinema itself, you have a movie called Queen of the Night in the film festival, and this is
Yes.
a sci-fi fantasy film. So this is definitely a departure from theology.
Well, actually, it's quite deeply rooted in theology. Actually, one of the screenplays is actually Jonathan Pajot, who, as many have probably seen on Facebook, on YouTube, has been doing a lot of interviews with Professor Peterson. And the key story to the film is you have a character called Oliver who loses his mother at a very young age, and he encounters this celestial being. She's this absolute beautiful girl, and then he has this desire an obsession. It really becomes an obsession to see her again, and he uses the next 30 or so years to try and reach her. And the film essentially is showing what blind obsession can do, not just to one's soul, but to one's relationships, both personal and also with the wider community. One has to question, does obsession, if misguided, lead to one's ascension or one's downfall? It's absolutely a stunning film, done by a wonderful husband and wife team who converted to Orthodoxy a while ago. And it's got an epic soundtrack, great. I think they call it cinematic folk. It's fantastic music. And it was a mini-part series, but now they've merged into a feature film. And I'm very keen to show that because, yes, it looks, and this is the other thing too, you have a lot of people who think that an Orthodox film is basically a priest behind it with a church in the background and talking for 2 hours on film. And that's clearly not what Orthodox cinema is, because that's not what cinema is, true, good quality cinema. So it's great to have these very diverse films, but the truth is, at the end of the day, what they all have in common are that they're filmmakers, they're creators, the people who, how they see the world and how they portray the world is all grounded in their practicing belief as Orthodox Christians.
And that's a beautiful statement to make, because you can still use euphemism in making those films to get the message across.
Of course. Orthodox cinema it doesn't limit creativity. The only thing that limits it is what harm it does to other people or our own souls. So that's basically the only limitation to the creativity, to the art form.
And how has the local archdiocese, whether it's the Greek Orthodox Church of Constantinople or of Antioch, accepted the festival, and their reaction been to it?
Well, I haven't actually really approached them because I'll be deadly honest, I'm a one-man show. So there's a lot of work to put this all together. However, all the churches have been very supportive of it. And they're the ones who have actually gone behind to host these screenings. So I'm just hoping to expand the festival more and more each year. It's just very difficult because I wish this was my full-time job. Unfortunately, it's not. But it's just a passion I've had for a very long time. And I have to actually thank my high school teacher, my English teacher, Mr. Constantatis, who was not only just a remarkable English teacher who helped me a great deal, but it was him that actually opened the doors to cinema for me, because I always loved cinema, but I never thought I could do anything with it. But when I realized it's about not just simply telling people, but it's about showing people and how powerful the moving image can be, that really hooked me. And since then, what I feel that Orthodox cinema really is, more than anything, it's not just the moving image, of which we even here in Melbourne have the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, ACME. I really feel it's the moving icon, because you and I and everyone we know are icons. They're in the image and likeness of God. We're icons of God, and all of creation is an icon as well, and truth is an icon of God. So how we depict these icons in cinema is very important. So that's where if you do see things as being sacred and as icons, then you're going to treat them appropriately on film.
Well, Chris, I will tell you this much. You putting a film festival together as a one-man show is still easier than becoming a deacon in the church. So,
I have no experience in that, but I'll take your word for it, Robert.
my uncle was a deacon, and we'd always joke that the people would complain about the priest to the deacon. So there was always the added headache of being the deacon in the parish. But I God bless you with everything that you're doing with this. And from 2013 till 2022, and you didn't take a hiatus; you just went straight online for most of it, which was helpful. Will this eventually become a touring film festival? Since you're located in Australia, would you branch off, say, here in the United States or Canada, or even in the old world of Greece, Russia, Ukraine? Well, they have their problems right now, but God willing, when that settles down, and Syria, Lebanon, wherever else.
Well, if I'm invited to attend, of course, I can come and actually put screens there. Here in Australia, I believe I might be going on a bit of a tour around the country, but I would love to come to the United States. I would love to go back to Europe, because the thing is, the films are actually made in those countries. Pretty much all the films you see behind me and in this year's program are from the United States. They're from Serbia. They're from Greece. Actually, quite a few short films from Australia, which is fantastic. But it would be nice to go home to where those films are from, because they do deserve to have cinematic screenings and to be properly appreciated. So if somebody would like to organize screens, I'll be more than happy to talk with them. So my details, of course, on the website.
Yes, for Byzanfest.com. With that being said, is there still an online component this year? I know you have in-person screenings, but for those of us international, if we'd still like to attend in the digital form, since we can't make it to Australia, is there still an online component?
There will be. I haven't decided exactly what date that will be, but hopefully soon. And you will get to know, of course, I'll let you know, Robert, as soon as the dates are confirmed. But they'll also be released through the website and social media and the mailing list. So people will be able to find out as soon as it's been decided.
When you birthed this notion for Byzanfest, was it the inspiration not only of being an Orthodox Christian and a love for cinema, but seeing so many other types of film festivals out there? Like here in the United States, we have Beyond Fest, which is more of a genre-based film festival. We have AFI out here. I know there's the Melbourne International Film Festival, and Sydney has their own. And these are mixed film festivals of different types of storytelling. Were you inspired by any of those, or was there something else that was gnawing at you that said, I need to make one for our religious community?
That's a fantastic question. I'm glad you actually asked, because it comes with a bit of a story. In terms of the festivals you all mentioned, which I follow all of them, in terms of their inspiration, in terms of as organizations, and in terms of their reach, that has influenced and inspired me. But in terms of the content, it's a very mixed bag of films. I won't say which festivals, but I even had somebody who I knew 17 years ago, and as a filmmaker, his style was always a very kind of narcissistic and very adolescent type of filmmaking. And the funny thing is, after 17 years, he got to have his film, his second, I think, feature film as a gala night, $170 a ticket event. And I thought, wow. And I saw his film and I read his interviews, and I was shocked to see that after 17 years, he's basically grown not one bit since the 18-year-old that I remember. So to sort of see films like that where there is no personal growth, there is no originality, because even his film is basically a mixed match of a couple of other films, which I think is a bit lazy, but that's my opinion. In terms of what has inspired me the most, I did mention about my mother's illness. However, the big catalyst that made me not just create a film festival, but a film festival for Orthodox Christians, was when I was at university. I was at my law campus. I went to Victoria Uni, and it's on a street called Queen Street. It's this beautiful old deaths, births, marriages building. They used to hold our records. And it's this, the architecture is like, I think it's French Empire. So it's absolutely stunning. And that actually influenced the logo for Queen Street. But I was doing that during my degree. And when I got to my final year and I was doing my honours paper, I felt very overwhelmed, and I thought I needed some help, someone on board. And basically I found like a friend of a friend who was very keen, and I took him on board. But then very quickly I saw that there was a lot of dark themes that were starting to show, which I didn't realize at first, but it really came through in his work. And just to sort of cut a long story short, it was about a week before I was doing I think it was my 4th year of Queen Street Film Festival. It was basically a collection of university students' films. So yeah, it was basically a uni film festival I was doing. And we're in this large theatre, which we're going to host a screening, and it's just the two of us in the dark. And he shows me his short film, and I won't say what it was about because it was quite graphic. And first of all, it sickened me what I saw. And I remember at one particular scene, I turned to look at him, and I saw him smiling. To him, what repulsed me pleased him. And long story short, I remember speaking to my spiritual father about it. We also had an appreciation for creativity, which was really helpful, because that way he had a bit of insight into what it's like to work in that sort of field. He gave me very simple advice, just to simply remain and just to hold my stand as an Orthodox Christian, and just to simply break ties with him. I did, and I actually had a very successful film festival. I'm speaking through the story here a bit. But what that left me was this idea of, I want to work in this field. Why should I have to agree to something which is not in line with what I'm trying to do, not just for myself, but even for the world? Because whether as an Orthodox Christian or even as a Christian, we also have a responsibility to the world around us, because then we have to, before the judgment seat of God, we have to acknowledge all the things or we have to defend all the things that we've done. And I thought to myself, well, I can't be the only person who feels this way. There must be others. And that's where Transfigure Media came to mind in 2008. And then, of course, that led us to Byzanfest. So I guess it kind of grew from that, I would say, traumatic spiritual experience I had of dealing with somebody in the creative field who really posed in what I believe would be just a very difficult spiritual struggle. So that would be the major reason why. And I felt, well, look, there are plenty of organizations and plenty of film festivals which do cater for evangelical and this and that, but let's do one for the Orthodox. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell. I'm sorry if I rambled a bit, but that's just sort of the lead up to yeah, we asked the question, I had to answer it. So that's what led us to where we are now.
Is there any hope in expanding this that it would also turn into a music festival where, you know, monastic chanters will come, part of the national archdiocese or the national diocese convention, and the film festival will be tagged along, whether again it's Antioch, Serbia, Constantinople, etc., for our jurisdictions, and the film festival will correlate with one of the jurisdictions in Australia to expand the audience as part of it as well?
I have absolutely no issue with doing that. That'll be fantastic. And actually, if anything, the title Byzanfest actually works very well because it's Byzantine, or you know, it's a nod to our Byzantine empire and history, and I guess you could say glory days. It actually works very well that it could be everything to do with creativity from an Orthodox perspective. So the name itself is already there. And of course, I have plenty of content already to kickstart such an event. I'm more than happy to. I guess I just need to know that I have someone who will support that. Because, like I said, being one man, it's very difficult on a lot of very late nights. But if somebody wishes to, of course, I'll be more than happy to.
That's fantastic. Let's put some feelers out there at some point then, because that sounds incredible. You being one man and doing this all by yourself is something that's almost unfounded. And one thing that Orthodox Christianity touches upon that most of Western Christianity neglects is the beauty within creation. You know, Roman Catholic Church did for a long time, but post-Vatican II, it's not as significant as it was, is that the beauty of creation is so important. And the beauty of expressing that creation is a huge factor within Orthodoxy. That's why our churches are so ordained, and that's why, or ornate, and that's why we have such incredible iconography that comes along with it. Is that also another inspiration from the foundations of the church that wanted you to put Byzanfest together?
In short, yes. As throughout my years, the more I learn about Orthodoxy, the more it surprises me in terms of its complexity, its richness, and even simplicity. Even from a theological perspective, even when you think about when in the liturgy, when we take wheat and wine, wheat and grapes, and we make them into bread and wine, and then what we bring to the church is bread and wine, and then we offer it to God, and then it's then consecrated into the blood and body of Christ. Creativity is the same thing in terms of we take our pigments, we take our I guess in a digital world, our digital cameras or our digital equipment, and we capture something, we make something, and as long as we make something good and pure, and then we offer that to the world, and therefore offer it to God, it's that same sort of sacrificial work in order to obtain a blessing and to please God. So I'm not sure if I'm expressing it correctly, but it's creativity and even the liturgy are exactly the same thing in terms of taking our efforts, and we're doing them because we're trying to please God, and hopefully we create something that is good. It's very intertwined, and it's something which I'm worried if I start talking, it's going to take an hour to express, but hopefully for the audience, they might get a bit of a gist of what I'm saying.
The sentiment is there. That's the most important part.
Okay, maybe we just leave it at that. But
Chris,
no, it's. No, go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
No, I was going. Well, please finish your statement.
Oh no, I was just simply say that the depth of Orthodox cinema that I've seen, and it's simply not just the message. I've said this many times. It's the art. But another way that I look at Orthodox, not just filmmaking, but creativity in general, whether it's photography or writing, it's like when you go to the optometrist, and in order to correct your sight, they put those little lenses and they tell you better or worse. And to me, it's things such as faith and knowledge and experience and all these different factors of life actually help you see the world in a certain way. If you only have one lens, you see the world very one-dimensional. Or in a lot of cases, especially the content here in Australia that's been peddled to us, it's very like rose-tipped glasses. It's very blind to what is really happening, not in just the world, but even in ourselves. It's very one-dimensional. But Orthodox cinema, if you look at it, it will look at things like not just spirituality, it will look at history, culture, the environment, the universe. I'll just throw a couple of titles. Like, for example, The Healing is a great example from Serbia. Christmas Anti-Fable from Greece it's remarkable. It's like one of probably the only sort of science fic noir type Orthodox films I've ever seen. That's really breathtaking. All these films, and just like our spirituality, there's a film called Sacred Alaska that'll be coming out in 2023, and I actually premiered here in Melbourne just to show the trailer, which shows a native tribe of Alaskans and how orthodoxy, like it has everywhere, it doesn't go to smother a culture, it goes to actually intertwine itself with the culture, because also orthodoxy finds things in a culture to help express it better. And we've seen that many times in our history. So orthodoxy entwined with creativity, entwined with our identity, it's a very multi-layered and very beautiful art. So I guess that's also why I do this. I torture myself because it's something which you don't find anywhere else, and it's made people convert for any less of words.
Beautiful. Chris, I'm going to leave you with this, since you recently got married, and congratulations on that.
No, I got married about nearly 6 years ago. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
No,
I thought you said a couple of years ago.
No,
do you have any kids yet?
Yes, we have one little boy, actually, Alexander.
Perfect. So I wanted to ask you this in regards to Alexander, since he's still too young to appreciate this. What would you like the legacy of Byzanfest to be for Alexander when he's old enough to realize the significance of this film festival?
I guess I would like him to have, almost, I guess you could say, even inherit, and this is for everybody, a record of what beauty looks like and what true human creativity is. Because especially what you see on things like Netflix or various channels here in Australia, there is no creativity. There is nothing. It is basically a page out of 1984 and the Department of Propaganda. And it's not about enriching us. It's not about entertaining us. It's all about converting us. And I simply want to leave something which shows beauty and truth, and I guess even a sense of wonder, because that's what these films do leave you with. I think there's no other words to express.
I love it. Chris, it's been a great pleasure chatting with you. I know you've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning, if you even got any sleep last night, since we've been exchanging messages with the time difference, which has been quite interesting. But Byzanfest is going on right now, October 27th through November 6th in Melbourne, Australia. Byzanfest.com, Byzanfest, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We will link you to everything down below. Chris, my brother in Christ, God bless you. God bless the work that you're doing and everything that is attending. I presume that your patron saint is Saint Christopher.
So, no, it's actually Christ. So my my feast day falls on Christmas. So I get double the presents.
You get double the presents. Oh, perfect. Well, at least Christ is taking care of you in all of this as well. May God bless you in every effort that comes your way.
And to you as well. Thank you.